The very first question that rabbis and therapists or counselors, coaches, somebody who's in a position to help a couple, the very first question that they tend to ask is, what is the problem, or what brings you here? What compelled you to coming here? And the reason for that is because I need to know what your problem is so I could help you solve it. Research shows that that's actually a damaging question. Because when you ask a question like, what brings you here? What you're essentially saying is, tell me about the weakest part of your relationship. Well, if I don't know about the weakest part of the relationship, how could I help them heal it? How could I fix it? And the answer is by asking them questions about the strongest part of the relationship. Instead of asking them, what brought you here? Ask them questions like, what do you want from being here? Instead of having them describe problems, which reinforces it, have them describe strength. Have them describe what they want instead of the problem. Every couple has the ability to hope for something greater because they've had something greater. You know how I know they had something greater? Because they're coming to see you, or they're coming to see their therapist, or whoever they're coming to see. You can't realize that there's a problem if you don't want something better, and you haven't had something better. If you had a headache your entire life from the moment you were born, you wouldn't realize that you had a headache. The reason why you have a headache, or realize you have a headache, is because you have a time where you don't have a headache to contrast it to. When a couple's going through an issue, they have some level of normalcy to contrast it to. In other words, there's always an exception to problems because nobody can be perfect. If you can't be perfectly, nobody's perfectly perfect, but nobody can be perfectly imperfect. So find exceptions, find positive imperfections. Instead of trying to address issues which can exacerbate them, try to focus more on the exceptions of the issues and try to make that the rule. Do more of what's already working. That actually works, right? So asking questions like, instead of, why are you here? Ask a question like, how did you meet? That's a strong point of the relationship. They decided to get married. That was probably a good thing. Ask questions like, what do you like most about your partner, despite the pain and whatever they're going through? There's something they like. Yeah, but they're not thinking about it because they're in so much pain. Great. Ask the question so they could think about it. My role as a counselor is not to figure out what the problem is so I can solve it. It's actually to figure out what the difference the couple is looking for and help them become more aware of that, make that more feasible. Because anybody coming to counseling is looking for something different. That's why they come. So why focus on the problem when I could focus on the difference? Now, some of you are thinking, well, then you're just masking the issue and you're ignoring the issue. You're sweeping it under the rug. And no, that's actually not true. Because as real as their issue is, what they want instead of their issue is also very real, very deep, very vulnerable. And if you could succeed in having a conversation about that, that could be very healing. There's like this inkling to try to figure out the problem and discuss it and make assessments and go through all these questions about all the bad things that could potentially happen or have happened. There isn't research that necessarily shows that that's helpful. Research does show that discussing hope, discussing what you want instead, is actually helpful, is actually healing. I see this very parallel to the Rebbe's model of Hezach Hadas, of not sweeping issues on the rug, under the rug and distract yourself by focusing on something good. But the good that you should be focusing on is very real and very true. And because of that, it's healing. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.